Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Police say they now believe at least 80 people died in the Grenfell Tower fire, but the real figure may not be known until the end of the year. It's been revealed that almost all of the people who died or are missing were in just 23 of the tower block's 129 flats. And police say that the intense heat of the fire means that tragically some people may never be identified. Here's our special correspondent Lucy Manning, and you may find parts of her report distressing.
23 flats where no one has been found. 23 flats in this charred shell of a building where police now presume no one has survived. Sajjad Jamal Watan rushed home with his sister as the fire burned. His mother made it out from the 3rd floor, but the family are still suffering.
We are a very vulnerable family, my mom, my sister and myself. We need immediate help.
He has just had bad news about his sister. Is your sister okay?
Well, she's dizzy at the moment, and the ambulance should be nearby, and I think they would take her to hospital. I am honestly begging for help. And I don't think it's really fair for us to beg for help. We don't deserve that kind of life.
Sajjad is gathering his own list of survivors and missing, one of many here who just don't believe the information from the police.
I do not believe the official figures. I really want to know what happened to my best friend. I really want to know what happened to my neighbor.
The police did give a lot more detail today, much of it hard to contemplate. From the 23 flats where no one has been found, 26 999 calls were made during that night. The residents of the block started to move up to escape the flames, and it's thought many of them did gather in one flat. And the police now say it will take them until at least the end of the year to be sure how many people died here.
We've looked at mini lists given to us by government, by local communities, and also from other companies such as fast food delivery companies. We are going everywhere to try and get a true number, and I believe that number will rise.
For the survivors, there is still too much to feel sad and angry about. The housing minister confronted.
I want a permanent accommodation. I'm not moving my child from here to here. If you don't give me permanent accommodation, I'm not going to accept it. And if you give me, and I'm not just going to take any house you give me. It's suitable. If you give me a house I don't want, I'm not going to take it.
What we're guaranteeing them is that they will have an offer of a home within the 3-week period.
The inquest today heard about the death of Syrian refugee Mohammed Al-Hajj Ali, found outside the building. Mother and daughter Rabea and Husna Begum found on the 17th floor. Mohammed Neda, a taxi driver, found outside the tower. 77-year-old Abdusalam Seba, who died on the 11th floor. 8-year-old Malak Belkadi and her sister, little Lena, just a baby. Malak and Lena and her parents were buried yesterday. Lena, the youngest victim of this fire. She had lived for just 6 months and died in her mother's arms. Lucy Manning, BBC News, West London.
2 weeks on from the Grenfell Tower disaster, one survivor has told us that he is more traumatised now than when it happened. Olu Talabi, who lived on the 14th floor, says he's not sure how he got out as he was ready to give up, but he managed to escape with his 4-year-old daughter on his shoulders. Now he hardly sleeps, has nightmares, his voice is still damaged from smoke inhalation, and he feels devastated about the people left behind. He's been speaking to our reporter, Tara Welsh.
When I saw the other side of the building was kind of burning, so I didn't want
my girlfriend or anyone, my daughter panic or anything.
When Olu woke to find his building on fire, from his 14th floor flat, he only saw one way out.
That's when I started tying all the bed sheets together.
With what in your mind? What was your plan?
Because I already opened the door and I saw the smoke, and there was no way I was going to go through that smoke, so the only way out was the window. And I was dangling from the window, and I told my missus to pass my daughter, and she wouldn't come. She was so scared. She was thinking, what are you doing? And I didn't want to look down because I felt if I looked down, I would fall down.
His neighbours pulled him back inside. The firefighters had brought 5 people into his flat that night, as it seemed least affected by the fire. One was a 2-year-old boy. He'd inhaled a lot of smoke and went to lay down on Olu's bed.
Basically, they just told us to run. So now I've can't run through because everything was dark. And that smoke, as I went through that smoke, I was thinking, what am I about to run through? There's no way I'm going to make it downstairs through this smoke. So I've run, come out now, and I've just hit my head. Bam. And for some reason, I don't know how I made it through the stairway. But I'm not going to lie to you. I gave up already. Inside of me, just by I don't know what floor it was because I couldn't see, but I'll say about the 10th floor. I gave up already. I've got my daughter like in my back, like choking, like I can feel myself taking my last breath. I can, like my missus is dropping on the floor. I'm trying to pick her up while she's dropping. I don't know what she's stripping off. I'm trying to pick her up. I gave up already. I really gave up. I didn't think I was gonna make it. I was choking.
But somehow he got out.
This is not my real voice. It's over, coming up to like 2 weeks now. Like I said, I can't sleep at night. I don't know, I don't know what damages this has done to me in the long term. I don't know if in a year's time I'm gonna fall sick from this. I don't know what this has done to me. And I was Steve. He lived on the 15th floor, a very nice guy.
Since that night, he's learned only his family and one other person left his flat alive. And as the days go on, he learns of more friends and neighbours that are missing.
From everyone that's died, the one that has affected me the most is the little boy. Yeah, because I can still picture him on my bed. Yeah.
Olu Talabi recounting the events of that night to our reporter Tara Welsh. And Tara is in North Kensington for us this evening. Tara, where some of the residents met with the Housing Minister.
Yes, Riz, and what you've got to remember is people have this emotional, physical distress to deal with, but they're also homeless at the same time. So Olu's sharing a hotel room with his 4-year-old daughter and his partner, and he just wants a permanent home so he can start rebuilding his life, as do many of the other residents. The Housing Minister was here this morning, and you might have seen Olu confronted him about that issue. So the Housing Minister then had a private meeting with some of the residents to reassure them. And I spoke to Olu and some of the other residents after, and Olu told me that he feels that his voice has been heard, but he'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, many people have so many questions. In fact, there's a whole wall dedicated to some of them here. Things like, where is the money going? And how many other Grenfells are there?
Tara, many questions, as you say. Thanks very much indeed. Well, let's pick up on the wider picture with our political editor, Tim Donovan, who joins me. Clearly, so many unresolved political questions here.
Yeah, and it dominated, you know, this weekly set piece, show Prime Minister's questions, the first one of the new Parliament, new government, all 6 questions used by Jeremy Corbyn on this. So many unanswered questions, key things, what's happening to this public inquiry, when will the judge be in place, what role will the survivors and people have in influencing the terms and conditions and so on. The key issue of rehousing, Jeremy Corbyn suggesting, is the government running out of time on its pledge to rehouse, make serious offers about housing to people by next Wednesday. The Housing Minister said today that he would do that. It would be 3 weeks. Some people are saying that, you know, they're well behind on that. That's not going to happen. And then broadly, not just the police investigation, but all the questions now that have been raised about designs of buildings, safety, risk assessments and so on, which go well beyond, as you know now, Grenfell Tower.
Well, on that note, where are we on safety across the capital?
Well, 120, we haven't had a London breakdown. We know about 10 councils are involved, blocks in 10 councils. The national picture, 120 blocks have so far been tested. They've all come back for this cladding issue, all come back as failing these tests. And what the government did today, the Prime Minister said today, was don't wait now for these tests to come back. You can fairly make an assumption that you need to get urgent safety checks done by the fire service of those blocks, that they're likely to fail this test. We've had, obviously, as we know, the continuing problems in Camden. We heard that Lewisham had 2 blocks today. Yesterday, we were reporting that this goes well beyond cladding, of course, now. It is raising all kinds of issues. So we've had fire doors in Camden. Yesterday, we were reporting about Hammersmith and Fulham. We were reporting about the Shepherd's Bush fire, where there were issues around the window panes, the panels rather, around the windows, and a London Fire Brigade letter to 33 London boroughs indicating and warning that they should have a look and see whether these kind of designs were evident there. We've heard from Hammersmith today they're going to be removing these panels, so there's some progress there anyway. OK, and
today a little more clarity on an issue continuing to upset and distress the community in North Kensington, and that's around the numbers dead or missing.
Well, the groups of people are very unhappy at this when they were talking to the Housing Minister, who went down to face a group of people today, which is this sense that some people feel down there that no one's being frank and open about the numbers of what's happened, reconciling the numbers who are missing with the number who are dead and with the number that potentially could have been living in this block. Now, a briefing from the police today indicates 106 people have been in touch. The police have been in touch with residents from 106 of 129 properties there. So there are 23 more where they have not heard anything, and there lies the kind of final tally. It's getting closer to clarity.
OK. Tim, thanks very much indeed. Our political editor, Tim Donovan.
The police say that the death toll from the Grenfell Tower fire will not be known for many months. With 80 currently presumed dead, they revealed that there are 23 flats in the North Kensington block where they haven't been able to trace anyone alive. Despite this latest update, there is still growing frustration among local residents who've created their own lists of missing people, with figures which do not tally with those officially released. Our social affairs editor, Jackie Long, has this report.
There is the agony of those with families still missing, and then the agony of those whose loved ones are known to have died. Today, a coroner heard how 6-month-old Lena Belcardi was found dead in the arms of her mother, Farah Hamdan, in a stairwell between the 19th and 20th floor. Farah's husband, Omar Bekad, also died in the fire with their 8-year-old daughter, Malik. Around the streets surrounding Grenfell Tower, disbelief at the official death toll has become like an open wound. Many survivors and families are convinced it's very much higher than police will say. In response today, police revealed that a resident list given to them by the tenant management organisation was inaccurate, and it may be many months before they can give a more definitive figure. They said they'd spoken to one resident from 106 of the 129 flats, giving them some sense of the scale of the deaths.
Now, from there, we know that within those 106 flats, the 18 people are either dead or now missing, presumed dead. So that's the numbers that we've got from them. But unfortunately, there's 23 flats that we still cannot account for the residents. So that's where our numbers come from.
No, where are the people who are supposed to be doing this?
Sue Carrow is one of the campaigners helping residents to collate their own figures for those who died and who survived at Grenfell Tower.
In green, those that they know have survived and the source of that survival report, and if it's definite or uncertain. Yeah.
She says the lack of information from the local council and tenant management organisation has left them no choice.
From day one, there has been no list of who lived there. There's been no list of survivors. There's been no information at all. And without hard data, i.e. numbers of who live there, numbers of survivors, the numbers of the missing, there's no closure for most of these people.
There is a danger in that atmosphere, quite understandably, of grief and anger, that people will create their own numbers, their own theories that are very difficult to substantiate.
Well, when there's an absence of any official information, of course people try to fill in the gaps. And because the community was literally abandoned with the response to the fire, there's a sense of, yeah, this is just further compounding that sense of alienation.
Both the council and tenant management organisation have said that their current priority remains the welfare of residents, and they're assisting with any investigation.
Jackie Long reporting. Now, today, Theresa May said that cladding from 120 high-rise buildings across England has failed fire safety tests carried out in the wake of the Grenfell Tower disaster. But is the government's investigation overlooking another potentially crucial issue, insulation? Tom Clark has this report.
The formal inquiry hasn't started yet, but attention immediately fell on Grenfell Tower's external aluminium plastic cladding as one reason for the fire's rapid and lethal spread. And since they started looking, the same material has been found on every cladded building tested. Today, 120 high-rises and counting.
So far, 100% of the samples that have come in have proved to be combustible. So work on the assumption that you should be doing the fire safety checks now.
The key word there is combustible. But by focusing on just the exterior cladding, the government's investigation may be overlooking another potentially crucial source of combustible material on high-rises: insulation. Most modern cladding is made up of two distinct layers. The outer layer, the subject of the current review, a sandwich of combustible plastic and aluminium. But beneath that is a layer of insulation. The Metropolitan Police announcing last week that tests on Grenfell Tower material showed this was more combustible than the outer cladding. Last week, we tested a sample of the brand of insulation used on Grenfell Tower called Celotex RS5000. As with the police test, this wasn't an official regulatory test, but clearly showed under certain conditions it burned readily. The company which makes it has now withdrawn the product for use on high-rises pending the inquiry. But there are a few other brands of insulation that have passed the rigorous fire safety tests for use in high-rise cladding systems. One from a market-leading firm, Kingspan, is called Cooltherm K15. We obtained some and took a sheet of the material back to the independent testing laboratory. After preparing a sample, we tested it using this machine, producing about 700 degrees centigrade. And the temperatures we're using here are comparable to a fire situation?
Broadly speaking, yes.
This isn't equivalent to the official large-scale test that a product has to go through to comply with fire regulations, but again should show on a standalone basis whether it's combustible or not. First, we exposed the foil-covered side of the panel to the heat.
Shut it down.
After several minutes, it was buckled and charred, but not burning. Then we tested the material on its unfoiled edge. Tall building insulation is installed vertically as part of a system with fire stops that should protect edges from heat. But on its own...
So that caught fire almost instantly. Near enough instantly.
Kingspan told us.
Small-scale testing has the potential to mislead. Compliance with fire safety regulations for buildings rests with builders and the government.
If the first way to comply with high-rise building regs is to only use non-combustible materials, how can insulation that burns meet them? Well, that's because there are other ways to comply, the best being an official fire test like this on an entire cladding system. In the brochure for Cooltherm K15, the company details fire safety tests performed on their insulation with different types of outer cladding. This should give building designers clear information about what combinations of cladding will meet fire regulations. But speak to fire safety experts and they'll tell you that regulations don't necessarily require you to combine different cladding components in the way in which they were tested by their manufacturers.
Every standard has its limitations and every product has its particularly unusual characteristics. And so when you combine products, multiple products with multiple characteristics into the latest building design, you get a new cocktail. And that's the difference between compliance and building something that's safe.
In a statement, Kingspan told us,
The use of Cooltherm K15 boards or any competing insulation brands to complement cladding that is non-compliant with building regulations would never be acceptable to Kingspan or any other responsible provider.
It added,
Kingspan remains confident that properly installed and specified, our products deliver reliable and energy-efficient insulation solutions.
Increasingly popular cladding for high-rise buildings is complex engineering, and if designed and installed correctly, cladding is fire safe and legal. But the current inspection of the nation's tower blocks shows the building industry and our regulations have clearly failed to understand it properly.
Tom Clark.
Now, the police today admitted that the final death toll from the Grenfell Tower fire will not be known until at least the end of the year. 80 people are so far known or presumed to have been killed by that fire. Now, of course, as a response to that horror, the authorities have been testing the cladding on many buildings similar to Grenfell. The important finding is that all have been found unfit. It's an extraordinary result. But given that, is it time to stop testing and just get on with the removal of cladding from buildings at risk? That is the view of the National Housing Federation, which represents the English housing associations. Social housing has been particularly prominent in all of this. David Orr is the chief executive of the Federation and is here. Very good evening to you.
Hello.
So what would be the case for stopping the testing programme now?
Our first priority is to ensure that people feel safe and secure at home. Many people don't feel that, and having had 120 different tests from different samples from different buildings in different parts of the country, I think we can now say that according to the tests that the government is carrying out, this cladding is not fit for purpose. We don't need to test any more of it. Frankly, no one living in a property that's got this cladding is going to feel comfortable because of these results. There's a lot of time and energy going into moving kit and equipment around the country to do the tests. Let's not do that. Let's take a step back and prioritise exactly what we do to make people feel safe and secure at home.
Now, because is it necessarily the case that a building that has that cladding on is an unsafe building, or is it possible that the cladding can be constructed in a way that is safer, or the building can be fire safe in other ways despite the cladding?
I think it's possible for buildings to be safe even with that cladding in certain circumstances, but in a way that is no longer the point. The point is that government has initiated this testing regime. Every single sample has failed, so we should just
We're
assume...
not learning anything from the test. Yeah.
And this cladding is no longer the answer.
So your priority would be buildings that maybe, like Grenfell, have one staircase and don't have sprinkler systems, and you would perhaps start with those, can get the cladding off, and maybe down the line get the cladding off.
Yeah, you see, in a way, this is not now an issue about housing, it's an issue about cladding and how people feel about it. We have cladding on all kinds of places, hospitals, prisons, schools, student housing, private sector, social housing, right across the board. And people need to feel reassured. And I think at the moment, activity is happening immediately following a test. We need to take a step back from that. This is a major systemic failure. All of these claddings have been fitted according to the rules that were in place at a time, according to the regime presided over by government. We now have government saying, according to these tests, it's not safe. So we have to prioritise which are the least safe, where do we take action,
okay.
And the government has to pay for it, Evan.
Well, that's a very important thing, because you just slipped in there that this was cladding put on and just allowed to be put on, and so somehow kind of pointing the finger, if you like, back at government. I mean, are you clear in your head whether this cladding was specified by engineers in breach of regulations, whether the cladding was allowed by regulations, or whether it was not specified by engineers but was simply put up by contractors saving a bob or two? Because I'm not asking you what the answer is, I'm saying, are you clear as to the answer on that?
What I'm clear about is that anyone who's commissioning a new building or these kinds of regeneration projects have to go through a whole process of safety. They have to go through planning, through building control, and there are experts involved at each stage. Architects who have to sign off the design, designers who have to, and fire people who have to say this is safe, building control that has to give its consent, and at some point a pass mark has been stamped to allow these buildings to be fitted with this cladding. If that regime is no longer fit for purpose, then there is an urgent necessity for us to know what in future we will regard as being safe, so that we can equip all of these buildings and make them safe.
Yeah. And just in terms of costs, I mean, the government has talked about 600 buildings, clad buildings, testing, assuming they all need doing. It was a couple of £1 million to put the cladding, I think, on Grenfell. You're talking about £1 billion or two.
We're talking about a very substantial sum of money, which should not have to be paid by the remaining residents.
David Orr, thank you very much.
Thank you.
On the subject of Grenfell, the Times is reporting tonight that the Prime Minister has found a person to chair the public inquiry into the Grenfell fire. Nick, you've been checking this story out. What
That's right, important story on the front page of the Times, and I have indeed had it confirmed that we will have a written ministerial statement tomorrow that will announce that Sir Martin Ball-Bick, who recently retired as a Lord Justice of Appeal, will be appointed as chairman of that Grenfell Tower inquiry. Now, the Times is reporting that he is an immensely respected figure in legal circles, but it is suggesting that there has been a hold-up in the appointment because of concerns of a ruling when he upheld in favour of Westminster City Council in a dispute with a single mother of 5 who refused to be rehoused in Milton Keynes, and this woman's lawyers said that this ruling had set a terrible precedent for local authorities to engage in social cleansing of the poor on a mass scale. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if tomorrow we hear ministers say that this appointment was made on the recommendation of the Lord Chief Justice, because of course Theresa May, as Home Secretary, has experience of setting up an inquiry into child abuse, had 4 chairmen of setting it up when the chair do not command the confidence of victims.
Nick, thanks.